Welcome to a brand new episode of Pop Kannon. We are your hosts. My name is Jordan.
I am Robert.
And I'm Joe.
Today, guys, we are discussing a Marvel TV... No, it's actually not a TV series. Believe it or not, it's a new Marvel film, Black Widow.
Finally.
Well, I watched it on my TV, Jordan.
I can't differentiate.
That's a personal preference. I saw it in a theater.
Good for you.
I know. I was lucky. It was a really fun experience, actually.
Go to a theater?
Yeah, to go to a theater and see a Marvel movie again. I wasn't really excited for this movie, believe it or not. I kept thinking, I'm going to have to see this. I'm going to have to go talk about it on the podcast. It's just a thing that I have to do on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
But once I pulled into the parking lot, we got our tickets, we sat down, the credits started, I was like, okay, I'm hyped up. I'm ready for the Marvel Cinematic Experience.
Yeah.
And this movie was way more action than I even anticipated. Just consistent throughout. And honestly, I kind of wish that we got more talking from it. But we'll get into all of that in a little bit. Robert, what did you think about Black Widow?
I feel like I also had a very tempered level of excitement for it, especially because the initial release got pushed back so many times that I feel like that makes you like kind of not excited to see it. But I was pleasantly surprised. I had read some not overwhelmingly negative stuff, but there was a lot of negative about this movie after it came out, and I didn't want to take it to heart because I wanted to make my own opinion about it, but I was like not looking forward to having to watch it. But I was thoroughly satisfied with it. I think it's a great movie, and it could have been even better had it been released in 2016. Joe, what did you think?
I do wish that I had gotten to see this in the theater. I just didn't have the time this week, and I knew I needed to watch it before recording.
Yeah.
But I will go back to a theater someday. I didn't really have expectations going into this. I feel like you can kind of bet on Marvel to give you a good experience. All of their movies are good, at least. It's just, the more you fill this bucket, the harder it is to really like blow me away, I feel like. I do think this would have been better as a direct follow-up to Civil War instead of wedging it in now.
Yeah.
Looking back, especially with everything coming out on Disney Plus now.
Yeah.
And the new slate coming forward, this was very much a weird afterthought, especially for one of the inaugural members of the team that really has always just been sidelined as, a supporting character in the Avengers movies when she really is a main cast member and she deserved a lot better. So it's bittersweet to be getting this bigger story of a beloved character who's now dead and like officially dead.
Yeah.
Even if we see some other version of the character in the future, who knows? But at the same time, I do love what has been introduced here because like Florence Pugh's performance was amazing. And I loved, like Jordan said, those more personal moments in this movie really made it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the action-y stuff looked a little rough to me, and I don't know that they achieved the kind of James Bond thing they were going for, but overall it was a good movie.
Yeah. And like you kind of had to accept the existence of multiple widows like kind of early on. And I know that like they've mentioned the Red Room and that they're making assassins, but I don't know that I ever assumed that they were all Black Widows. You know what I mean? So then to find out that this is just like a constant rolling thing and there's so many other ones, in a way it makes Natasha becoming an Avenger that much more special. And I think that that was something that they tried to highlight because they kept mentioning, and you're an Avenger, you know? So to come from this, where we're doing what we do and topple dictatorships and all of the stuff that the evil guy said, it definitely gave a nice ring to that character, I feel like.
It's also ironic in a way because at that point in the timeline, the Avengers were falling apart, and that's the constant thing for her, is that being an Avenger means nothing at that point. She doesn't have any of the resources that she used to.
Right.
And it's, in a more meta way, it's more ironic because they've come back and saved reality at our point, but she's not there anymore.
Right.
Also, S.H.I.E.L.D. toppled, too, so she no longer has S.H.I.E.L.D., and she's losing the Avengers.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone putting her in that light, like up on this pedestal, you're an Avenger, that comes with this weight that she's also carrying that she doesn't feel worthy of, that she's
Right.
constantly reminded of this past, and now she's being pulled back in. We talked about in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like, comforts and post-traumatic stress disorder with Bucky. Like, you've got to imagine that Natasha is some way feeling those kind of effects.
Definitely.
It's also funny that they took a bunch of throwaway lines from Avengers and fleshed it out into a whole script.
Yeah.
Where, like, as soon as you hear Dreykov, like, that lit up in my brain. I was like, oh, Dreykov's daughter. Budapest, all the different, all of these snippets of teased backstory that was
Budapest.
That
that for me, that was such an earned moment for me where I really laughed because I feel like that is a conversation that like every fan has had among themselves.
Yeah.
Where they're like, maybe she's talking about a different place. Maybe there's a CHT in that word. Who knows? Budapest. But yeah,
That's
like,
how you pronounce it.
I know, but like nobody else did, and then they had an argument in the movie about how to say
Oh yeah.
So even in universe, they made it a point to like make fun of that moment, which I thought was just awesome. But prior to the film, I watched the Legends on Black Widow, which is that program that Disney Plus is doing, which is a special feature, but they release it as its own content. And there was so much from those earlier movies that I didn't even remember or realize that Natasha had character-wise. Like, I mean, I obviously all of the stuff in Iron Man 2, but we spent a lot of time in Avengers from 2012, and I was like shocked at how much actual character work she had in that movie, because I don't know if coming out of that I remember, oh yeah, remember all those intimate conversations Natasha was having about her past. Like, those weren't the things that were there. That Loki scene with her seemed really extended to me, and I was like, wow, that was really intense.
Yeah.
And then you do those specifically to tie into how they wrote with the character now, because a lot of the things that we see her do in that 11-minute like sizzler video for her, she brings out in the film in different ways. Yeah. So it was a really neat tie-in to like the character's actually, whether you realize it or not, really fleshed out by the time we get to here. So to have this is like really nice, and it would have been better had we got it early.
Yeah. And honestly, that's my biggest complaint about the film, is just I wish it came out in 2016. Even in 2018 or 2019. Like, it should have been Marvel's first solo female film, because I think it would have had much more of an impact, and it would have made people care about that character so much more in Infinity War and in Endgame.
Yeah. I can't imagine how much more impactful her actual literal death in the movies would have in Endgame would have been had this movie been released prior to it.
Yeah.
Even just getting this out before Infinity War would have just really, because they do a really good job. I mean, obviously they know where she's going to be, and they knew then too, but they really rounded out that time away from her between those two movies, and it was like really well done. And like the time is spent, she wanted to not do that, but she was brought in to do something, like she felt like she had to, because that's who she is now.
Yeah. Had this movie come out in 2016 and she left on that Quinjet at the end, imagine how excited you'd be, because you'd be like, oh my god, she's going to rescue everyone. She's going to get people out of the raft or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, she's going to meet up with Steve.
I think they would have been a little less candid about it had that been the case. It would have been very much non-committal, because they have broad strokes laid out.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't have been that specific about it.
Yeah, she wouldn't have been like, I'm going to get those guys out of jail now.
Yeah, that was a little much for me. It could have been a little more, like, wink.
Yeah. I liked having the direct knowledge of how it happened now, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I like having that filled in information, because had we seen this prior to Infinity War, when Steve shows up and the rest of the, not gonna say that they're the Secret Avengers, but the rest of the Secret Avengers show up, and like the moment would have been that much bigger, because it's like Natasha was successful, she found Steve, they got this team together, and now they're here. You would have been like, I mean, that moment gets me jacked up no matter what, because I love that moment so much.
The music is playing in my head right now.
Yeah. But like, you would have been like, oh shit, and Natasha, like you would have really fucking got fired up for it, I feel like. But and we would have had the explanation on her vest. I know you were dying to know about it in Infinity War.
I didn't even register until you said that. Like, I remember like watching Yelena hand her the vest, and I was just like, okay. I didn't realize that it showed up in Infinity War.
Yeah, that's why she got her hair all choppy,
right?
As an homage, I guess, to her sister that's not dead, but she's not hanging out with at the moment.
Yeah,
but she got a sweet vest out of it, and it has pockets, dude. It has so many pockets.
It does have so many pockets.
Oh, that was a good moment in that car. All of the sister stuff was just so good.
Yeah.
It was, and like, I wish there was more of it. That's another complaint that I have, is like, I wish there was more of those personal moments layered throughout this film. And honestly, I think it's because we're kind of spoiled with the Disney Plus shows. I feel like those moments, like, I always kind of lean into those character moments a little bit more than I do like the big action set pieces. But yeah, dude, I just wish there was more of that sister connection, because Florence Pugh stole the fucking show, in my opinion.
Yeah. I thought she was fantastic. And like, we already are appreciative of most of her work already. I've seen more movies with her than I even realized I had. But yeah, I think she did such a great job. She's like perfect in that role. The accent, I think, was good. I don't think she did a bad job with the accent at all, because you could really butcher that and sound stupid, and I think she did a really good job. Yeah. Most movies I've seen her in, I don't get to hear her real voice. So
building off of that, just the whole family dynamic of like taking FX's The Americans and saying, well, this is a Marvel property now.
Dude, so I've never watched The Americans.
Me either, but I know about it.
Person who's told me, like, who's made that connection.
Yeah.
It's a good show.
I definitely had that vibe too. Like, I was like, I'm pretty sure there was a TV show that was just like this.
But the kids weren't assassins in
that. But like, that was really effective for me. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and that also kind of justified her feeling that the Avengers were her family as well, because they're these super heroic people that can't really relate to other people in the same way, but they have the same human needs. So like they sit around a table and talk like a normal family, but they're in their big stupid costumes. And then like their arguments turn into,
I'm not signing the Accords, Tony.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus,
but we're on a farm.
Versus like, how was your day, sweetie?
Yeah.
But that's a good point that it was easy for her to make that also feel like home very fast.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's already had to do that one time. And maybe she didn't even necessarily want to, but it's familiar and easy, so she just slid back into it, and now she's fighting to death to keep it together.
When she doesn't have to play a part, she's way more, happy, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Even with the family, though, it's funny that they're all so on board and that they're all playing a part, but they like the parts that they're playing, so they don't question it. Or, well, she does question it, but by the end, she decides it was real. And it's a very, like, complicated thing to even think about.
The photo albums
oh my god,
was like a weird, really weird, like they made fake photo albums to seem like a real family, and they did all of the holidays in like a day.
Yeah.
Which is like,
that is still a happy memory, even though the photos
because
are
the
fake
holiday was
real.
nice, like the real holiday.
Yeah.
Therein, it was very sweet and gentle as a memory, and not like none of this is real, like none of that. But like that opening sequence with them as the family was really cool. It set them up in a way that I didn't expect. I didn't expect to get that out of the gate, you know?
Yeah.
So like when you're seeing them together, you're like, okay, like it just how it unfolded, that opening sequence was fun to like go through with the characters and how it was happening. I didn't know I didn't realize that was Natasha with the blue hair. I didn't. I had the subtitles on at home. It said young Yelena, and I was like, oh, that's Florence Pugh's character. At first, I was just thinking that was her legitimate family, and Natasha will somehow be folded into this mix, because I was also not sure of the math, because it told me 1995, but I wasn't sure how old Natasha would necessarily be in 1995. And there was a moment watching it where I was like, she would be a child also. Like, it took me out of the actual story, because I was like trying to do the math of how old she would possibly be, and is that her? Because the subtitles kept coming up young Natasha, but she wasn't necessarily on screen when that was happening, I don't think. And most of the time it was Melina that was on screen. So I was like, is Rachel Weisz playing young Scarlett Johansson? Because that's a decision.
You're like, these subtitles are messed up.
Yeah, I was so fucking confused. But once I realized it was like, once she grabbed the gun from the guy, it was like abundantly clear that that's her.
Yeah.
You know,
I was like trying to look at her face, and I was like, okay, I could kind of see it in the face. All right, that's Natasha. Like, so like I just accepted it.
Well, in the family thing, we get the reveal that David Harbour's character has what we would assume is the super serum, the super soldier serum, because he just sort of flipped that gigantic metal thing out of the way like it was nobody's business.
Yeah, that was like, whoa, that was a whoa moment. I was like in from that point on.
Yeah.
Did you guys not know he was Red Guardian going in?
No, I knew that.
Yeah.
I kind of just assumed that that's a character with the super soldier serum, but like they play him so
normal at first.
Yeah, that like to see him just running and putting stuff in the car and doing all of this stuff, and then he's just like, oh yeah, woof, and throws the thing out of there. I was like, oh shit, okay. The mask is dropped and we're just trying to get out of there now. That was cool.
Yeah. I do like that, like he kind of like squats and like just like lifts it up as if to move it at first.
Yeah,
you're like, wow, he's kind of strong, and he chucks it.
He throws it in the air.
Yeah, David Harbour was entertaining as like the comedic relief dad in this.
Yeah.
It was very tropey, but in the Marvel style of we're gonna flip it on its head and that he's her Captain America Russian dad. And he's got these weird delusions. There's those lines that keep coming up that he has memories of fighting Captain America, that you don't know whether he's lying or if it's some kind of belief that maybe was put into his head, or he fought another Captain America.
Yeah.
He's saying Captain America, but maybe he's talking about a different person that was portraying that sort of role, I guess, that we don't necessarily know about. And that was the first thought I thought of, was Isaiah, having watched Falcon and Winter Soldier. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. It seems like he knows that he's bullshitting them, but they all know that he has the serum, so they can't call him on it.
But then why would he ask Natasha if he remembered him?
That's true.
So I saw another theory that could be like Steve's time traveling.
Yeah, with the stones. Somehow 1984, I think, was the year he said. Somehow Steve stumbled upon him and they got into a fist fight, which would be cool as hell.
Steve read cool. 1984 once and he didn't realize it was like dystopic fiction. He was like, somebody should do something about that guy.
He's like, I've got to go.
This big brother is pretty rough. Maybe he fought Bucky.
Dude, maybe he fought Bucky.
Although they probably would have been on the same side.
Yeah.
Didn't they steal the plans for, like, the mind control for the Red Room from the original Winter Soldier project?
Did they say that?
I'm pretty sure that's what they implied.
Yeah, I think so.
When they were trying to steal the stuff in 1995, I think that was a secret Hydra base that they said they took the information from the Winter Soldier project. So that's like a really interesting idea that, like, maybe Red Guardian and the Winter Soldier, like, faced off at one point.
Yeah.
They sent the Winter Soldier to try to get the tech back.
That's the thing, like, in the comics, Bucky and Natasha are a lot more intertwined, and I wish that they had explored that more in the movies. But also, with her age in the movie, it doesn't work out as well.
It's interesting because a lot of the stuff that they do is similar. A lot of the fighting that they do is similar. So when they faced off in The Winter Soldier, they highlighted that in the Legends show, like that fight. Their knife stuff, and then in this movie there's like a whole other knife fight that happens as well. With the Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Or whatever you want to call the character that looked a lot like the Taskmaster.
Antonia Dreykov.
Yeah.
Is the Taskmaster.
See, I'm not. So what I'm not gonna do is pretend that this like ruined my childhood. Taskmaster as a character is not one that I'm like, beating down the door for, and was upset that they like ruined or whatever. It's not that for me. They really, I feel like, heavily telegraphed who the Taskmaster was going to wind up being in this. Pretty early on, I feel like, when they mentioned the bombing. And so it just, for me, it was not hard to put two and two together once you realize that the Taskmaster worked for who the Taskmaster worked for. It was like, oh, that's probably just going to be his daughter.
I didn't really catch on until right when they were about to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't catch on either.
I feel like I said it like super early. And then when it happened, I was like, oh, okay.
Well, I'm very proud of you.
That had me going for a while. I was just kind of wondering, because I could definitely tell it was like a female.
Yeah, I knew going into this, without having watched the film yet, that I was like, if you would have asked me, I would have said like 80% sure that Taskmaster was going to be a female character in this.
And not that I mind.
No, it was just a sheer gut thought, was like, they're definitely going to make Taskmaster a woman in this.
I could just tell from the way that she moved and the way that the character, like, kind of fought in some of the shots. I was like, that just kind of looks like a
female.
woman.
Yeah.
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 And
I thought she was a robot.
so I was just trying to I was just trying to figure out like who could it be, cuz like I'm going through the scenarios in my head, and I think they were trying to imply that her like independent contractor might have been Taskmaster at one point.
Really?
Like that's kind of the vibe that I got for like a hot minute.
Could have
That,
been.
like,
I mean, I
might
could
been
see that
him.
happening. Yeah. Because why else was he involved in the film? We don't even know who he is. So that would have been an easy way to tie those two things. Yeah.
Rather quickly, that kind of
Dissipated.
changed.
Yeah.
But I was still just like, who could it be? Like, is there going to be some sort of shapeshifter, like crazy twist? But nothing.
Yeah.
I wasn't even necessarily let down with the twist. I kind of liked it. I thought it worked because Natasha had so much guilt for the death.
That to me was the
that character.
telegraphing.
Yeah.
That to me was the when they just like really kept talking about how the girl died in the daughter died in the fire. I was like, we didn't see a body, bitch. I know that she's gonna be in that fucking helmet. I know it.
So going in, I had seen that people were upset about
Yeah.
the use of Taskmaster. So I think that lowered my expectations, where I wasn't looking to the Taskmaster scenes to like really give me anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
That being said, I don't mind this so much as like possibly an origin for that character, and they left it pretty open that she might return in some capacity down the line, and then she might actually be more of a character now that she's free.
Yeah.
And you could see her as more of an adaptation of the character as they're truly meant to be,
Right.
which is kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
I just kept thinking about the first time they tried Deadpool whenever I saw her, though, because she was just that silent
Dude, Jordan
assassin
said the same thing to me.
Yeah. And then they had her be, when they took off the helmet, she's all mutilated, and that was trying to do like the Bond villain thing of
Yeah.
the villain has a fucked up face. How scary. Ableism as a plot point. Yeah. I actually didn't even realize till just now that the widow that plugs her in strokes her mask like very sisterly. So I do want to rewatch this now that I've like seen it all the way through and we're talking about it. But
And that's the
can
thing.
we pause?
Like,
I'll be right back.
like, I want to rewatch this movie. I will
Oh, yeah.
gladly rewatch this movie.
Yeah.
Probably in every MCU rewatch that I do.
In the right place.
Where it's placed.
But
It's
wait
gonna
a minute,
go-
wait a minute.
No,
You just had a whole thing on Instagram about watching in release order, and now you want to say, but no, this one.
Yeah,
no.
this one is the only exception because
This
it's
is
the only one that makes
exception.
sense. Yeah. It's the only one that makes sense where it goes.
Yep.
You better
So
post
I
a
will
redaction.
gladly place this in between Civil War
And
and
Infinity
Infinity War.
Yeah.
Watch it start to finish, have a great time, and then go
Yeah.
right into Infinity
No,
War.
I agree. I was gonna say too, right after we make a big stink about how you should watch these movies.
Yeah.
Or not make a big stink, but kind of react to how other people have been like, oh my god, chronological order's the shit. You know, you could mix the two. You don't have to watch Captain Marvel before you watch Iron Man. That's just stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense to do that.
And
Anyway.
it makes watching Loki really difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good luck.
I was thinking the same thing, which we'll get into in our very next episode, so stay tuned for that.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah. But with Taskmaster herself as a villain, like, I was kind of expecting more, but they kind of roadblocked her at several points throughout the film. I would have liked more.
Yeah, I was definitely anticipating more, and I wish that there was more out of that character in this movie, because the fighting sequences with her were amazing. They were so cool. Like, every one of them was just like, wow. The one on the bridge was awesome.
Yeah, the one on the bridge, like the knife fight,
Yeah.
the shield, like you're getting everything on there.
Yeah.
It was really cool, and it was exciting because even though you knew Black Widow wasn't going to die, like how the hell is she going to get out of this?
Yeah. How do you fight? How do you hand-to-hand fight a mimic? Because it's like really and like when we saw the inside of the helmet, like the heads-up display and stuff like that was really interesting to see how, like, what she's seeing in there.
Someone floated the idea that like someone could just get that helmet and modify it and get that tech and become a different Taskmaster.
That's true. Yeah.
So we could eventually get like a screen accurate, comic accurate version.
I wouldn't want that.
But who gets upset about those stupid things?
Well, like, they've already introduced this character as the Taskmaster.
Right.
True.
So, like, to have her be like, yeah, but fuck her.
The technology's around and exists.
I think it'd be very funny for her, like, coming out of her trauma to show up in Deadpool 3 and just get, like, just fucking break on Wade and, like, just see the asshole Taskmaster come out of her.
That'd be cool.
Okay. See, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I was thinking about places that the character would wind up, and I don't know. I would imagine it's on a Disney Plus show somewhere down the line, but I don't know where.
Right. So, like, Taskmaster wasn't even the main villain here.
Right.
The main villain is Dreykov, who didn't die in the massive explosion. They don't tell you how.
And neither did his daughter, so what really was she carrying around that guilt for? That poor woman, thinking she did this shit, and then to find out you didn't kill any of the people that you thought you did.
You're actually kind of a
well,
bad assassin.
Well, she killed a lot of people still. But...
Well, right, but not the people you thought you did. The ones that made the ends justify the means. For Black Widow, not for me. I don't condone it.
Yeah, the ends don't really justify the means if neither the ends or the means are accomplished.
Right.
So this movie was essentially billed as an origin story for Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't consider it that. We got some information about the Red Room, which we've heard about in previous films, but never really got to see until now.
And we didn't really see that much of it here.
We didn't.
Yeah, we got a peek in Age of Ultron.
I was led to believe
it's
it was
assumed
like
that it
else.
was gone, but then you find out it wasn't gone. It's been up in the clouds the whole time.
I think I thought that the Red Room was going to be more like the place that John Wick goes in John Wick 3.
Yeah, I kind of
agree. That kind of like, it's like this weird underground criminal thing, but there's also ballerinas for some reason, and they're all getting whipped into shape and stuff. Like, I thought for some, like, because that was the implication I feel like they gave us in Age of Ultron, was a lot more on the ballet training with the harsh undertones of threats of violence if you don't do it right, rather than we're training you to be super spies. And I guess you can dance if you want to. But you can definitely leave your friends behind, is I think the more...
I think the ballet thing was part of a cover that they were
Probably.
Yeah.
But, like, also, if the building that houses the Red Room is in the sky, who are you hiding it from further?
No, like, they had to train them to be ballerinas to go undercover.
Okay.
I thought I expected more of that. Like, could we just talk about the fact that, like, there was only, like, maybe, like, 20 widows in there?
Yeah.
Max? Like,
Yeah, but there's more
around
all over the world. And also,
No,
they
I
said that,
understand
like,
that.
for every 20 children they kidnap, only one ever makes it, and they kill the rest of them.
No, I understand that, but, like, you would expect them to be in the Red Room, right?
Right.
Like, wouldn't you expect there to be, like, younger girls there or, like, a staff of people training young girls there? It was just, like, a group. They were, like, having a class on a Saturday of, like, adults. They had, like, we just got the adult widows up at the Red Room this weekend. That's all that's going on.
Kinder widow training is off on Saturdays.
Yeah. We sent them home for the summer.
It could have even been a thing where it's like Hydra bases where that's where they go to do the last step of the mind wipe or whatever the fuck. But Melina even says that they get cycled through.
Mm.
Okay.
So they don't all stay there full time.
Okay. She has 7 pigs.
That's true. The pig. There was some gut wrenching scenes in this. So almost suffocating the pig was one. The pretty graphic, like not graphic, but somewhat graphic, like human trafficking scene in the intro when they're getting sent to Russia.
Mm-hmm. That was definitely muy uncomfortable.
You really felt all the hits and seeing all the bruises after the Taskmaster fight. I think this is the most confirmation we've got that Natasha, at least, but I'm assuming all the widows have a little something extra beyond human in them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, they even said, like, genetically that she had something special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But are they trying to imply without saying it that she's a mutant in some way?
No. God, no. They go to the gravestone at the end and it says Jean Grey.
There's one next to it. She was a widow.
Deadpool was there the whole time. He was like, Logan's back that way.
Instead of Elaine from Seinfeld, they should have just had Ryan Reynolds there at the cemetery.
Instead of Elaine.
He's like, sorry, Elaine couldn't be here right now.
She's too busy in her sombrero dancing.
Dreykov as a villain, though.
Yeah.
You really hate him by the end of this.
He's a piece of shit, dude.
Yeah. They did a good job making me hate that man.
I loved the way that they showed you how protected he was.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, as soon as they said it, I went, oh, no, because I knew what she was going to do. And I was like, oh, shit, because she's totally going to fucking do it. As soon as he said olfactory, I was like, oh, fuck no. Oh, my God, how is she going to do this? Is she going to let him punch her?
But I do like her line about how she's just like, you couldn't punch me hard enough.
Right, yeah. Right. Like, you have no idea, dude. She fought fucking straight up aliens hand to hand.
Yeah.
Some fucking old dude some old Russian dude's gonna, that's worse. Like, no. He literally has no idea either. Like, legitimately, he doesn't know, like, what she's been through. Yeah. And that was, like, that's, like, a more interesting, because he knows what his daughter does because he kind of uses her in that way, but like he doesn't know the struggle of all these other women that he's created and destroyed their humanity in a way. Like, he doesn't know the costs of it, and that's why she's standing there in his face trying to tell him. But it was just such a badass moment.
I think that's the overarching thing, though, is that he couldn't destroy their humanity.
Right. Because no matter even when they were pushed so far apart, they wound up coming back together just to stop him. Even. Yeah. So in a sense, he took away their humanity, but gave them the payoff of being human. So he really was transformative in their lives in so many ways.
Sure.
Yeah, her slamming her face on the desk, and then just like coal cocking the shit out of him was fucking awesome. I felt it. That moment was so
earned.
Yeah. Like nobody. I don't think the MCU's ever had somebody get punched directly in their face, and my first and only reaction was yeah, like
Yelena making fun of her for all the poses.
Yeah.
And that little moment great. Of her coming out of the vent.
She tried it, you know. How does it feel? And she like slid her body out of that pose so fluidly.
Yeah.
She was like, whoa. That was funny.
You're such a poser.
Over and over again.
It's great.
I love that. I love that.
Their dynamic was so good.
Mm-hmm.
I know we talked about it earlier, but like those two really had good chemistry, and I'm so upset that we're never gonna really get them on screen again together.
Oh yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's the placement of the film
in
2021. Despite the pandemic and everything from 2020, I probably still would have felt the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. If it released in
it
was supposed to release in like May last year, I would have still felt the same way. That was my biggest gripe talking about the existence of the film to begin with, was that it's in the wrong time. Regardless of whether it was 2020 or 2021, it got released after Endgame, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
The silver lining of that, though, is that we're getting more Florence Pugh. From that post credits where Valentina, the rest of her name, shows up, which I want. Like, I don't know if that means she's gonna be a Dark Avenger as well, on the same team as John Walker.
I think she's going to be kind of what they're implying.
Yeah, I think she's going to be the Black Widow to his Captain America kind of deal.
Which is
like,
super exciting.
Holy shit, yeah. The reverse of that coin is interesting.
Which also like raises the question for looking forward to Hawkeye, is Kate taken under his wing, or is Kate his replacement who's sent after him? But I guess we'll have to wait and see till next year.
I think that's late this year.
Is it?
I think so. I think that's officially still 2021.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, that post-credits scene, it kind of like set things up and set Florence Pugh's character up in a way that's very exciting.
Yeah.
Because now it's like, oh, she's going to go after Hawkeye. She's not like setting up with the Avengers. She's gonna try to like take him out. Yeah,
which is gonna be a lot of fun, because he's gonna be like, I know all these moves. Okay, I've dealt with this more than enough. He's like, I really hope in that there's just one moment where Jeremy Renner sees her coming, and he's got the arrow pulled back, and he's just like, another one? Like he's gonna be mournful for his friend, but at the same time be like, oh, because of just how much of a pain in the ass that was for him to begin with.
So speaking of Hawkeye, though, do you think that we will get a scene from Budapest
in Hawkeye?
In Hawkeye, like an actual flashback to that?
I don't think so,
because I feel like that's probably the best opportunity to ever get something like that.
I think if they weren't gonna do that in this movie, they're not gonna do that.
Yeah, if you really wanted to have the flashback to Budapest and like what they keep talking about, I feel like it would have already been done. I think they like the idea that it's really, really ambiguous.
It was a cute line to say, what kind of gun makes those holes? And she says arrows. In the safe house.
That was good. That was funny. You were talking about Florence Pugh's chemistry with ScarJo.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the whole family had a really good chemistry. Like the rescuing Red Guardian scene in that prison was like a really interesting set piece, because none of them were in the same place.
Yeah.
You know, like none of them are on the same level fighting. One is in the helicopter, one's up here, one's down here, and they're all trying to converge, but it's like nearly impossible to get done. But I really liked, because I didn't even realize, but when she shot, what was it, like that water tower or whatever, and then
it was a watchtower,
the watchtower, that's right, and it like exploded, and then it I didn't realize that it was going to cause an avalanche. It wasn't a thought in my head, and then Amanda went, oh shit, because she saw the rumbling in the background, but I wasn't even paying attention to it. So she went, oh shit, and I was like, what? Like, I looked like, what? and then they cut to like you see it like it was much clearer, and I was like,
everyone reacting to it.
Yeah, at the same time, I was like, that's a fucking really interesting scene. I like that a lot.
Yeah. And all of those people are probably dead.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure dead.
If they didn't die in the initial, like, everything collapsing and the explosions and whatnot, like, just the snow.
Yeah.
I honestly thought that they were going to milk the Alexei prison escape a little longer.
I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah.
I am too. But when he started going throughout, they're on the mic with him, and they're telling him like, okay, now don't let anyone see you do this, and then all of a sudden he's like running. And I'm glad that we got a big action set piece out of that. Like you said with the avalanche, I wasn't really ready for that to happen.
No.
It wasn't even on my radar as like a possibility. I was just like, oh, it's snowing. They're in the mountains.
Yeah.
Whatever. But they managed to escape and had a very interesting conversation about what the Red Room did to them in the helicopter.
Yeah. I'm remembering now exactly what you're talking about. That was it was forward is a way to put it, I think. But it was all at once like funny and terrifying and heartbreaking. Her delivery is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like the comedic timing of the delivery of her explaining that. Chip, 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 chip. Like I laughed, but I was just like, that's terrifying and horrible, you know?
Yeah. And he's like David Harbour's immediately like, oh my god, stop.
It was such a great dad trope to mention girl parts and have him throw his hands up because he's not interested in hearing about it. That was amazing. And to go further on his dad thing, somebody punched in on one of the tattoos on his arms. He has their names tattooed on them in Russian.
Really?
He has Natasha and Yelena tattooed on his arm, and also
nice.
Karl Marx across his.
I saw Carl on the one close-up shot. I didn't know it was Marx.
Yeah, the other one was Marx, which is hilarious. He's Captain America, but for Russia. It's perfect.
Yeah. Sure is.
So, as far as favorite scenes go, what do you guys feel like was your favorite scene?
You know, I think it's right before they get raided when Red Guardian goes in to console Yelena and he starts singing American Pie. Because when they first played that in the car, like, it was a little cringy to me, but then they actually got me when it came back, and they're two actors who don't have Russian accents. Or what is Florence Pugh's native accent?
She's British, I believe. I don't know if...
Yeah, so two actors who don't have Russian accents trying to sing in a Russian accent, which, like, David Harbour is like, I'm not going to sing. I'm just going to speak the words rhythmically. But it was so sweet, and it really got me. It was followed up by probably my least favorite moment, which was too many darts hitting him in the chest. It was funny at first, but then when it was 20, I felt like I was watching Ace Ventura.
Legitimately.
But, like, they know that they need that much to drop him.
Yeah.
Because he's so fucking strong. They're just like, just open the cannon on it. We're not going to deal with... He's not punching any of us out. We're just going to shoot him down.
I was expecting him to just go all out in a fight, and they just completely took him out of the equation.
Yeah, they made sure to not do that, which I thought was like... on one hand, it's kind of disheartening because, like, I really kind of wanted to see him go. I mean, we did get to see him, but I really wanted to see him, like, unleashed a little bit with this, you know?
Yeah.
I laughed at it because I think they intended it to be funny, but I get that it was, like, it was cartoony, and that's why I laughed. Jordan, what's your favorite scene?
I think Taskmaster's first scene where he shows up and bombs Natasha's car, I think would be my favorite, like, action scene. And then as far as my favorite, like, dialogue scene, Natasha and Yelena talking at the table at night, drinking before they steal that dude's car. And Yelena's talking about how she gives people a backstory for Black Widow. I thought that was a really sweet scene between the two of them.
Yeah. I think my favorite scene overall was the, like, sister fight when Natasha first tracks her down and they talk to each other through the door, and then you have that whole apartment fight.
Yeah.
That was, like, really intense.
Completely unnecessary.
It was unnecessary, sure, but, like, that's the type of people that they are.
Yeah.
You can't just roll up on one of them in their safe house. They're going to fight you. And I appreciated the hell out of that. But I liked that they didn't seem like they were really pulling punches. Like, they were trying to maim the other one in a way. And I appreciated the intensity and the severity to both of them about how they needed to get their point across in that fight. Because they got to do a lot of crazy shit, like hit each other with plates, and like it was nuts.
Slam each other through a cabinet.
It was nuts. I loved it. I loved that. But if you're talking about character scenes, that really uncomfortable family dinner after they don't kill the pig, for me was like heavy as fuck, and I really, really enjoyed that.
When you brought up the first Taskmaster attack, that's when I first kind of caught on to the look of this movie. I think it kind of set itself apart from the other Earthbound Marvel movies. It's very saturated, I'll say.
Yeah.
Like the lighting on that bridge scene especially was very nice. They used like an anamorphic lens, and like you caught these weird lens flares a lot of the time.
Yeah. I noticed that. I think most of the movie was shot anamorphically. Yeah.
I think it was a pretty beautiful movie. Some of the like special effects look a little rougher than I'm used to from
the red stuff.
Yeah.
The red cleansing dust.
Yeah. Like that was a little cheesy.
Yeah.
I don't know why it needed to light up, but
especially because it was like, oh,
and like they brought up bioluminescence before, and I thought that was going to come back to have something to do with that.
Same.
I
nothing.
said to my roommate, like,
there.
Melina she loses it constantly, so she made it light up so she could find it. But I got away from my point. I do think this was a really beautiful looking movie, especially in the shots that weren't, made on a computer. And for the most part, Marvel movies don't generally have that kind of artistic look, I don't think. Sometimes they do take the time, and especially in moments, but I think
overall,
beginning to end, I think this was a very good looking movie.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate.
Yeah.
And it was directed by an Australian director,
Kate Shortland.
Kate Shortland. This was actually her first foray into the superhero genre.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like blockbusters. She's done like indie flicks before, and actually Scarlett Johansson went to bat for her and said, "If we're doing my movie, I want her to do this." But then I think she also had to convince her to then do the movie.
Well, Scarlett Johansson was an executive producer on this, which I love seeing more and more of, where a lot of the actors that are involved that have been playing these characters for so long are now like involved in the production of the film as opposed to just the acting portion of it.
Tom Hiddleston is exec producer on Loki. Yeah.
And I love that because like it makes it feel like it's okay to invest our time because they're doubling back and investing additional of their time into it as well. So I feel like it feels really good to know that a lot of the actors care that much, that they've been tasked with playing these characters in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That they're willing to like
they take like an ownership
go the
role
extra
in
mile.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like going off of Joe's point, I think the movie was shot like really nicely. Like, none of the editing stood out to me as, like, jarring or, like, poor. Like, everything was well-paced for the most part. The action scenes were really, really, really action-heavy.
Yeah.
And the quieter moments, like, were powerful for the most part. Like, it's not like there was any point where I felt a drag in this film.
No.
Which I think will help in the rewatchability of it.
For sure. Because you know that, like, I don't feel like there's any parts that I would go like, oh, I don't want to watch that part of it. Like, everything felt like it mattered, and there was so much action that when you got those quieter moments, it was like, it felt earned, and it felt like we were all kind of taking a breath before it all started back up again.
You could, like, appreciate those smaller moments more in this movie because there's so much action.
Yeah, because when we're not doing, like, it's like there's like car chases, and it's just like it's constantly balls to the wall action. So when they get to speak to each other and there's no bullets flying, it's like, it's nice, and you really latch on to that, I feel like, and I think that's what carried me through it. You know, I didn't have any big issues with, like, the script as it would be stated. You know, the family stuff got the point across. You know, and, like, I saw somebody else complain about, like, oh, these people just kind of, like, come back together and it's no big deal. And I'm like, but did you pay attention during that scene and what they were saying? Because they really aired some heavy grievances with each other.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, 3 years is a lot of time to spend.
Yeah, 3 years is a long time to just be with the same four people. The same four people be together all the time.
Yeah, and it's, like, intimate. It's not even like it's a work scenario where you work 8 hours and go home for the day.
They're living together for 3 years, and then they just got ripped away from each other cold. I feel like it made sense that they kind of just picked back up from where they left off, because they didn't leave in a way that they ever got to say, like, bye. You know, they didn't get to send each other off and wish each other well. It was literally like, holy shit, we got to do this right now, and you're getting in here and it's gone and everybody's gone. You know, it was very fast. So when they got back together, it was like, you know, Yelena and Natasha had to work some shit out, but that all felt earned too. You know, they both kind of felt abandoned by everybody.
Two things that didn't work for me. The Nirvana cover over the opening sequence, or the title sequence, was a little awkward for me.
I saw someone today say that was the best Nirvana song they've ever heard. And I was like...
When Nirvana sings it.
I know.
I like, stopped watching to send you guys the picture of Jack Black from the Muppets. You're ruining a beautiful song. And the other thing my roommate pointed out to me, and I would be in trouble if I didn't mention, Yelena, as a child, her My Little Pony doll is a present day My Little Pony and not a 1995 My Little Pony. And it's a pretty gross oversight by Marvel.
Yeah. Normally they're pretty good about that.
Yeah.
I mean, they built a whole fucking blockbuster for Captain Marvel and filmed it with time-appropriate material. They couldn't figure out which My Little Pony worked? That's kind of fucked up. See, that's why they shouldn't have went with My Little Pony. I don't know what the ownership situation is, but if they went with something like Barney, it would have been a lot more safe because he's only ever looked one way.
Well, he's had some tweaks.
Slight tweaks, but it wouldn't be if you saw the doll laying on the ground for 0.2 seconds, you'd be like, that's the wrong one.
I had some old VHSs when I was a kid where Barney was very clearly blue, and I loved that. I felt like I was in on something. Welcome to Barney
The secret director's cut.
Release the Barney cut.
On that note, is there anything else to say about Black Widow?
I had a really good time with this movie, despite its flaws. I will rewatch this. I will have fun rewatching this. I will watch it in between Civil War and Infinity War every time, because to me, Black Widow as a character will mean more
Yeah.
viewing her story from beginning to end and not having to jump back.
Yeah. Not pulling a Tarantino on it, you know?
Robert, any final thoughts on Black Widow?
Yeah, I mean, my expectations were low, and I feel like they were considerably blown out of the water. The action in this movie for me is enough to say that it's teetering on the line between good and great MCU movies. I don't know that it would crack my top 5 or top 10, but there's so many MCU movies and now TV shows that getting into that top 10 is a very difficult prospect, and it's almost like cemented at this point unless they really blow us out of the water with some shit that comes out soon. But no, I think it was really good. The action was awesome, and the character moments that we do get are like earned, and they didn't feel forced or anything like that. I think this movie probably deserves more credit than it's ever going to get from the general populace, and especially from MCU fans who seem to not want to like it. And Joe, what did you think?
This comes at a time when we're extremely saturated with Marvel content.
Yeah. Just look at our slate.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to judge it almost. But I did really enjoy this, and I think it's a really great looking movie, as I've said, and it was a good time, as Marvel pretty much always promises you.
Mm-hmm.
I think what most excites me about it is the level of creators that Marvel's attracting now. They've always kind of brought in some indie filmmakers, but like a lot of notable directors are now coming and able to tell their own stories through the lens of a comic book movie.
Yeah.
So one that springs to mind when we talk about Kate Shortland is looking forward to The Eternals coming out, which stands to probably be one of Marvel's probably most like artistic movies that we're gonna see, at least from what we've heard so far. But yeah, as a kind of tying the knot on this character, I think it does a lot, and I like what it leaves behind for the future.
So, all in all, positive outlook on Black Widow from the three of us, from your boys at Pop Kannon. Let us know what you thought of Black Widow. Hit us up, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Pop Kannon. If you would like to, you could also subscribe on your favorite podcast platform.
Like Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, Spotify. If you listen to stuff on Anchor, I don't know that anybody does. And a whole bunch of other ones. CastBox, Radio Public.
If you like looking at our beautiful faces, these episodes also appear on YouTube in video format. And you can follow us there. You can subscribe to us there. I believe there's a bell involved.
There is.
Check it out.
Involved.
We're Pop Kannon just about everywhere.
Yeah. And if you would like to, you can find us individually. As always, my name is Jordan. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at JL24FPS.
I'm still Robert, and you could find me on Twitter and Instagram at Yesball.
I'm Joe. I am on Instagram and Twitter at Joe for Broke. Follow me.
So once again, thank you so much for watching and or listening. We have Loki coming up next, so stay tuned for the three of us as we discuss and break down
Loki,
that show.
Yeah. For
Pop Kannon, we'll see you on the very next episode.
We all did a thing with our hands. That's perfect.
That's the thumbnail.